Celtics Hawks game 3 tonight down there, and joining us right now on the Harbor One hotline to talk about it is Dee Brown, who, if I remember correctly, a young 16-year-old Jermaine Wiggins, before he went on to play for the New England Patriots, watched in the dunk contest, and it changed your life completely when it came to the sneakers that you would wear.
State championship that year in basketball, I wore all season long was the Dee Brown.
You wore those? You wore those on the bench?
No.
Oh, okay.
I didn't see the
bench. Dee joins us on the Harbor One hotline this morning. Hey, Dee.
Hey, what's going on? The bench, huh? You can't wear those shoes on the bench.
No. I haven't seen a bench. I don't know what the bench is. I only know playing.
That's what I thought. Everything's good. Thanks for having me on the show.
No, thanks for being on this morning. And as I'm wondering, as you've watched this team this season, what they went through before the season started, losing Ime and having an interim coach for half of a season. Are you impressed with what they've been able to do?
Yes, I have. I mean, got to the finals last year. He made an outstanding job with the team his first year. And Joe slid in and did a great job. Joe didn't change a lot. Joe came in and pretty much did the same stuff. He might have made some adjustments on the defensive end. I think Brad did a really good job of rebuilding or retooling some pieces that he thought they needed. Malcolm Brogdon, sixth man of the year for this season, was a great addition. Just those type of pieces like that you think, doesn't move the needle, moves the needle. So I'm very impressed. I think Jaylen and Jayson stepped their game up to another level, which people didn't think they could do so soon. So that's good. Marcus is Marcus and Al is Al. So those type of things, when the consistency is there with your veteran players and then your younger players step their game up, and then see Derek White, just see his maturation process over the last couple of years, just continue to grow. They've got a chance to not just get to the finals, but win the championship.
Dee, when it comes to Jaylen Brown, his name's been in headlines all season long, and a lot of times in trade talks and kind of negative headlines when it comes to Boston. When looking at the team and the fan base and even the coaching, do you think that he has gotten the respect he deserves here in Boston?
I think he's got a respect. The one thing I guess every Boston athlete needs to know, they're diehard New England fans. So any kind of conversation that you're unhappy with being in Boston, or you want a new change, or I'm not being respected, the fans don't take it. They take it very hard. Like, oh, you're turning your back on us, And I think Jaylen has learned that. I think every athlete has learned that in Boston. Like, listen, when you're in New England, be New England. Like, be Boston sports. Let the other stuff, the business stuff happen. When it's time to do that, you don't need to talk about it. And he's a great player. He should be an All NBA on one of the All NBA teams, because he's going to be the second best player on one of the best teams, if not the best team in the league. And you don't want that negativity to seep in, especially when it's not warranted. I mean, he's done a great job. He's great in the community. He does so many things around New England. You just hate that part to be a narrative because he wants to be in Boston, and he wears a 7. He's got Brown on the back. So I know he wants to be in the Celtics. So it's important that, that type of stuff, you want to keep it to the minimum. But, it happens. It happens. But he's been great. And I think hopefully they reward him and he stays in Boston.
Dee, when you look at the Celtics team, and you talked about Jaylen Brown, but when you look at Jayson Tatum, what type of player did you maybe play with that you go, okay, this guy has that type of skill? Because it seems like Tatum, I know you played with Bird and kind of towards the end of his career, but what type of skill do you see from Jayson Tatum that is now elevating him to, one of the top 5, top 3 best players in the NBA?
I think he's done a better job on the defensive end. I think that's really underrated because he can score at such a high rate, with the screen, no screen, ISOs. I haven't seen a player like him in Boston probably since Reggie Lewis. Reggie was that type of player where he could create his own shot anytime he wanted to. I think Jason's probably a couple inches taller than Reggie, but Reggie could score anytime he wanted to. But also, the difference with Reggie was Reggie could guard anybody on the court. You know, he would guard a point guard all the way to a power forward, and he was one of the best defenders, if not one of the best defenders in the league during this time. So Jayson's a special talent because he's so gifted on the offensive end. And I think he got challenged this year being a better defender by Marcus and Al Horford and those guys who really hang their hat on playing defense. And when you've got guys around you that play defense all the time, if you don't do it, you look like you stick out like a sore thumb. So I think that part of Jayson's game is picked up. And, you know, you can see again, his maturation process as a leader, be able to take over games, not forcing things. He's done a great job of that this year. Maybe, you know, last year, you know, him and Jaylen going back and forth, who's 1A, who's 1B. I think they've identified that a little bit better, and both of them have taken the roles and ran with it.
Dee, you had a front row seat to the debacle that was Rick Pitino in Boston. I'm curious how you look back on that experience, and also where were you the night the Celtics lost the lottery and their 36% chance of getting Tim Duncan fell through their hands?
My mom always told, if you can't say anything nice, don't say anything. But on this occasion, I'm going to say something. No, you know what? The Rick Pitino situation was very, very hard for me because I give you one thing. Rick is probably one of the best basketball minds in the world. He is as committed to basketball, knowing the game as any coach I've ever been around, ever. You know, obviously the things that happened in Boston, kind of trying to separate the organization from the past history was something that struck me strong and it bothered me because I was kind of the last link between the old Celtics and the new Celtics. And, you know, I kind of got put in that situation where, you know, I felt, you know, I wasn't wanted during that time. And it was tough. It was really tough. And, you know, things change, you know, situations happen. But I remember when I think I was on vacation. And we knew we could get, you know, the one pick. You know, we're like, oh, listen. And you got to remember the timeline was Pitino had taken a job before the lottery, before the lottery came out. So he in his mind, he's like, listen, we're getting Tim Duncan. You know, we're going to get number one pick. We got 2 chances to get it. And then we got 3 and 5. I think my phone might have, like, exploded because he was not happy at all. You know, all of a sudden, I'm now not having a chance to get the number one pick. You know, I think we tried to do everything possible to package those picks up to get number one, which San Antonio at that time was not doing. I mean, Tim Duncan was a generational talent, so that was kind of like whoever had number one pick really hit the lottery. And obviously, you see in San Antonio, you know, history that it was the right pick to make and the right player who everybody thought he was going to be. So, yeah, it was tough. And then, you know, we get the 35th pick. We draft Chauncey Billups and Ron Mercer. And then later on in the year, I get traded with Chauncey Billups, our 3rd pick, to Toronto. So it was a very, very enlightening year, my last year in Boston, which, you know, I hated to leave. I thought I was going to be there for my whole career. But, you know, it's the business part of it that you really can't control.
When you look, but so you bring up feeling like you weren't wanted, and then like years gone by, how do you look back on your time here? Like, is it, you know, would you say it was your favorite place?
No, I loved it. No, listen, it's not even a question. You know, I go back, and it's weird. The 90s is kind of like the forgotten decade in Celtics history. Like, we don't really talk about it because, yeah, the beginning of it really, the late 80s when Lenny Bias passed away. And then you had the big three kind of transitioning out and leaving. And then you had Reggie passing away. And then you had Rick Pitino coming in. So I was there during all those times, except for I wasn't there when Lenny passed away. I was there a couple years later. So I was like the captain and the quote-unquote best player during that era. And, you know, Paul came later in 98, 99, and Antoine, I played with him his rookie year. So, like, between 91 and 98, nobody even talks about it. You know, we're not a great team. You know, we got to playoffs a couple of years. You know, we went through the ML Carr situation, him being there. Then, you know, I love playing for Chris Ford. You know, rest his soul. He's one of my good friends and a great coach, and also a great Celtics as well. But nobody really talks about the 90s. And that's more the most heartbreaking thing to me, that we kind of skipped that. We skipped those 8 years. And those are my 8 years that I was on that team. We had a lot of changeover, a lot of players. I played with players on the team that, if I named their names, you probably know who they were. And that was a tough part. But listen, I would never change my experience in Boston. Great friends, and I still got family up there. My best 8 years of my life was in Boston when I was playing in the NBA. It's not even a question if it was. And, loved every minute of it. The transition from the old Boston Garden to the Fleet Center or whatever it's called now. It's like 10 different names since then. So I went through I was part of the transition from the old to the new into now the next generation. So, you feel like you still have a part of being part of that growth. A lot of it was not pretty. I can acknowledge that.
Yeah.
We had some lean times in the 90s. But I was a part of trying to keep the organization afloat and still relevant, and hopefully I did my part in doing that.
Dee, and I think you did do your part. When you look back at it, like there's this new movie that just came out, Air, about the Michael Jordan, the whole shoe story. It was like when you did the whole dunk contest, pumping up the pumps, it was almost like you took Reebok and the pumps to another level, because I know they were there before you with Dominique Wilkins. Like, do you get like a lot of credit for like?
No, you want to know if he's still getting paid on the pumps.
Well, no, I mean Reebok was like, and then all of a sudden you got Dee Brown doing the blindfold dunk, pumping up the pumps, and now everybody's wearing Reebok pumps.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean I'm still a Reebok contract person. Pretty much on almost a lifetime deal. My daughter, who plays in the WNBA, has a Reebok contract. So they've done well for my family. So I'm not definitely I've done a lot of good things for them, and they've definitely reciprocated on it. So I definitely appreciate Reebok still to this day. I still have a deal with them. So, but yeah, I mean, I got a shoe that's coming out tomorrow, a new show. So I have they've done well, and definitely if we got back into basketball a little bit more. They've done a lot of different things like CrossFit and MMA and different things they've done, but they're getting back into basketball. Iver's still a Reebok person. Shaq still does stuff with Reebok. We still do stuff together, events together, us three. So to be able to do that and obviously be synonymous with a shoe, because back then nobody had their own shoe. Like it was Jordan and maybe I think Barkley had their own shoe, and then Reebok. I had my after I won the contest to make sure I had my shoe called a D Time, and I was like one of his first quote unquote signature shoe athletes, but I wasn't Barkley, I wasn't Jordan, I was Dee Brown. Like it was a lot different levels to going that, but I had my own shoe. So it was kind of unique that I got put in that category and brought more attention to the Celtics being more athletic, dunking, alley-oops, things like that. So, to be able to do that and bring attention to the New England area was very special to me.
We talked a lot about the history of the franchise and the different eras. So I don't know if it's possible for you to do this, but is Jayson Tatum in your mind on your top 5 Celtics all-time list?
Oh, gosh, It's too early. It's too early. I mean, if any other organization other than probably the Lakers, he's top 5. I mean, I can name. Let me see. I can go Bird, Russell, Havlicek. I got to put Paul up there, Pierce.
Okay.
Because he won a championship there. To me, especially with the Celtics, getting to the finals and get to the playoffs is all great and dandy. You don't get put into those the top tier echelons in the Celtics history unless you win a championship.
Yeah. So
Paul will always be in my top 5, because he won a championship there. He was a key cog there, obviously with him and Garnett and Ray and those guys. Jason's close. He's close, but you got to win a championship to break that top 5, because all the guys that came before him that won championships from JoJo White to Sam Jones, Casey Jones, Dave Cowens. It's a list of guys that he's got to jump. Talent-wise, he's there, top 5. Oh, no question. But to be put in my Celtics all-time top 5, he's still got a little work to do on that one.
All right, Dee Brown, before you go, when it comes to the Celtics team going forward, who scares you?
I don't think anybody scares me because I think they can play any style of game. They can go big. They can go small. They can, speed the game up. They can slow it down. So I think they've built a roster that can play against anybody in the league. Milwaukee always scares me because if Giannis is healthy, they're a good team. They're a championship-built team. They've won a championship, so they've got the mindset of how to do that. So they've got a blueprint of how to win a championship. So that's the team in the East that scares me. In the West, Denver scares me just because Denver, they can play different styles as well. Jokic is such a unique player. I got an opportunity to coach him when I was with the Nuggets his rookie year, and he's a special player. So I think Denver is one of the teams that would scare me just because their versatility with him and Jamal Murray being healthy. But I think the team's got a really good chance because I think they can match up with anybody who's in the playoffs right now and play any style and still be not, looking out of place or looking like they don't know what they're doing.
All right. Well, it's been awesome having you on. I appreciate you taking the time this morning, and maybe we'll get to talk to you again during the playoffs, Dee Brown.
Sounds good. I appreciate you guys having me.
All right. That is Dee Brown.